Hello and welcome. This is the Election Fix. Today we're joined by French political scientist Christophe Jaffrelot. He is, among other things, a professor of Indian Politics and Sociology at the King's India Institute, London. Christophe Jaffrelot is also the editor of The Majoritarian State, How Hindu Nationalism is Changing India. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Election Fix. To begin with, from the 2014 campaign pitch of the BJP, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, of taking everybody along on the development path, to what we're seeing in 2019, be it Amit Shah's remarks that if they were to be returned to power, any infiltrator who's not Hindu, Buddhist or Sikh will be thrown out of the country, or the Prime Minister's remarks that Rahul Gandhi chose to contest from Wayanad because he is afraid to do so from a Hindu majority seat, or indeed the fact that the BJP has fielded a terror-accused Sadhvi Pragya Thakur. Are you surprised at the explicitly majoritarian tone taken by the BJP? One commentator referred to it as no longer dog whistle but a foghorn.
Well, in fact, in 2014, I had given an interview to Scroll.in where I had said that if development did not work, the B plan would be communalism. And that was something you could foresee. You could imagine that if the BJP government could not deliver in terms of jobs, especially in terms of jobs, they would have to fall back on another plank, and that was the obvious one. So no, I'm not surprised. What I find surprising is the fact that this is not significantly eroding the popularity of the BJP, especially among the youth, especially among the people, the urban youth, who voted for BJP precisely, at least that's what they said, for development. So if they voted in 2014 for development, they did not get development, why do they vote for BJP in 2015 and 2019, sorry. And that's something, of course, surveys will probably explain to us, but for me it's a mystery so far.
How does one explain that? Political analysts and journalists alike post the 2014 victory said a large number of voters who went with the BJP were disinclined to accept the party's ideology and its position on a number of issues, but saw the party as one that would deliver decisively on the economy. If that were indeed to be true, and if one were to go by what is widely accepted that the BJP has not delivered on the jobs front or indeed the economy, the party should be staring at a defeat. But opinion polls seem to be suggesting otherwise.
Well, there are several explanations. One indeed would be, in fact, in 2014, they did not vote for development. They said they were waiting for development, but that was somewhat a pretext. And the subtext was already in Durva politics. Another explanation can also be, well, we have been disappointed, but what is the alternative? And the way Rahul Gandhi has been portrayed as a papu, as someone incompetent, has gained so much momentum, has been so pervasive that the credibility deficit is affecting the Congress and the opposition at large. So these are two alternative and not necessarily mutually exclusive explanations of why in 2019 you did not get what you voted for in 2014, but you still stick to it for 5 more years. And now, of course, if you do not get development for 5 more years, this is a lost decade. India is facing the syndrome of the lost decade. No reform, no development, no growth, no job for 10 years because it's always the same. You can say modus operandum. It's not policy oriented. The BJP government has not been policy oriented, has not made development a real priority, and demonetization showed that policies are overdetermined by politics, and as a result, this is a recipe for 10 years of lost time or waste opportunities, which would be very sad.
So you're saying that many of those who voted for the BJP and said they didn't identify ideologically with the party were perhaps being economical with the truth, and that majoritarianism is perhaps more normalized, or is a sentiment that is more widely acceptable than one imagined.
That can be one of the explanations. It's not only that there is a majoritarianism that has become the hegemonic discourse, but it's also the fear of the other, the fear of Pakistan, the fear even of China, the fear of being encircled, of being really under threat. So if this is the dominant agenda, dominant discourse, then of course you enter a different mode. You enter the mode of a security state. And in a security state, development comes after safety. The economy, the social issues are not the number one priority. If India has shifted in this category of security states, we know that there will be some irrationality in terms of the voting behavior. We saw that in many neighboring countries of India. Most of the neighboring countries have been at one point of time or another security states and have not favored development, reforms, the economy, but some much more military-oriented kinds of attitudes. So this is what these elections will tell us. As the center of gravity of Indian politics shifted in such a way that we are now in the security states league, and security will come first, development will come next.
So this shifting of the center of gravity of Indian politics, would it be fair to say, informs the Congress's political response? Hindutva light, some have called it. The newly formed Madhya Pradesh government's decision to slap the National Security Act in a case of alleged cow smuggling being one of the examples. You yourself have recently written about how you see the Congress sort of flirting with many of the BJP's familiar campaign themes.
Yeah, the problem is that when you consider that majoritarian identity, security are the priorities, it's very difficult for the opposition to have a credible agenda that does not factor that in. The Congress has a program. I had never seen such a program in 35 years of following Indian elections. Everything is there. But who speaks about the program now? Who speaks about policies now? It's very difficult to make such points, somewhat sophisticated points, when the priority is elsewhere. And the fear, the risk is that not only Congress, but all the parties run after BJP in this new quest for a majoritarian, safe identity. This is what neighbors of India have been doing for now many decades.
What, in your opinion, does it mean for the Muslim minority in India that the only non-BJP pan-India party, the Congress, finds it politically expedient, perhaps, to practice some sort of majoritarian politics? Is it just the political vernacular?
Yeah, we have now a question at the back of our mind when we look at the Congress tactics. Are these tactics or is it a strategy? And will they indulge in soft Hindutva only to win elections and then return to a secular modus operandum, making Muslims full, you can say, first-class citizens in India or not? And what we see in the states which have been reconquered by Congress last year, is a mixed kind of message. On the one hand, Madhya Pradesh seems to be indulging in more than soft Hindutva, some serious attempts at promoting Hinduism at the expense of multiculturalism is seen there. It's not the case in Rajasthan for the moment, for instance. So it's very difficult to draw conclusions, but the risk is that India becomes an ethnic democracy the way Israel has become an ethnic democracy, and in an ethnic democracy, all the parties have the same red lines. The legitimate discourse, the legitimate policies are not that different. You can't resist, you can't have an alternative agenda because it has become the hegemonic discourse. So this is, again, one of the lessons we will learn from these elections as a point of no return being reached also on the Congress side.
I'm also curious to know, how do you see the Modi government's decision to give 10% quota for the upper caste poor as fitting in with the image of the party and in general sort of seeming to lean towards welfare measures, something which one expects from the Congress's political playbook?
Well, it's very difficult for any ruling party in India not to be populist that way. Populist, the somewhat Indira Gandhi way. You have to speak in the name of the poor. The 10% quota is a different thing. The 10% quota is precisely a kind of compensation to the non-so-poor people. And I think it was something that has been very effective. Even if the rich upper caste people will not benefit from this quota, at least the BJP has sent a signal, look, we are thinking about you. And we know that for many decades you have resented discrimination, positive discrimination. You have resented quotas. So that was a shrewd move that will probably help to compensate for the disappointment that these middle class, upper caste middle class people may feel vis-à-vis BJP. Even if at the end of the day this measure, this reform is seen as unconstitutional and goes like so many others, the signal has been sent.
One final question. We've been witnessing the rise of the far right world over. Do you see any similarities in what you call the rise of majoritarianism in India and any other country?
Oh, definitely. We are living in an age of national populism. You have different brands of populism. There is a populism of the left, and that was Indira Gandhi's populism. That was Perón populism in Argentina. That is, by the way, the populism of Podemos in Spain, or there are variants of that. But national populism is a different brand of populism. Then you define the ethnic majority as your people. The real people is not the whole society. It is made of the sons of the soil, of the majority of the people who were born there or claim to be born there or descending from those who were born there. So yes, this is true everywhere. The difference with, for instance, Hungary with Orban or Kaczynski in Poland is that in India, national populism is not only promoted by one man. There is a huge organization behind. So in many countries, when the leader goes, the regime changes. In a place where the organization has infiltrated the state apparatus and many other institutions and society at large, the leader may go, the regime may not change, the system may not change, because it's much more difficult to eradicate such a, you can say, network. And that's why in the case of India, the national populism of Narendra Modi is closer to the Israeli variant. And by the way, the election campaign that Netanyahu has just completed was so similar to the campaign of Narendra Modi. This is typical of another variant of national populism, where it's not only one man and his people, it's one man plus one ideology and one organization trying to dominate and conquer society.
Christophe Jaffrelot, appreciate your insights and your time. Thank you for joining us. That's it on the Election Fix today. Do watch out for our episode that we'll publish next week. Also, do follow all the election-related developments your one-stop source. Do subscribe to our newsletter, The Election Fix. Thanks for watching.